the testifiers. Good afternoon to my colleagues and the testifiers. This is directly to Commissioner McCurdy. I was in my office and I'm trying to get some clarity on this Epstein money. And when you said that the settlement stated that monies were put into the coffers of the general fund for operating expenses, and you decided on your own to spend it how you chose to, how does that work? Because I remember when we were given a report from OMB, the majority of the money was specifically earmarked for specific things, which was senior citizens' homes. They had mental health facilities. It went down a list of things. So the bulk of the money, we couldn't spend it how we wanted to. We passed legislation to direct the monies to those things that were already negotiated. But then we were told there is some roughly $55 million that was open, and the legislature had the authority to then earmark where those monies would go. So I just need some clarity. Is that the open operating monies that you said you spent? Because I know the legislature earmarked those monies to go elsewhere, and I don't want to have any potential confusion if the money is already spent. So are you saying that inside of those negotiations, an additional amount for operating expenses was separate, or that roughly $55 million that we already split up is what you're saying you spent? That's all I need clarity on.
I cannot speak to $55 million that was had in the prior discussion. What I am saying is there was $33 million that was slated to go to the general fund, that went to the general fund and was utilized for governmental operations.
But who authorized you to do that? That's what I'm trying to understand. Because any money is deposited into the general fund for operations, the legislature decides how that money is spent. That part, because I'm very much confused. Because if that's the case, any money that goes into the general fund, you're saying that you as the finance chair could just spend it at will. So I'm very concerned at the message that's being put out here on this Senate floor today.
That's the finance commissioner, not the finance chair, Senator.
What did you say, sir?
Finance commissioner, not the finance chair.
Oh, finance commissioner, yes. But could I get that answered? Because I really need to understand what's happening here today.
I'm not sure what the question is. What I spent, based on the agreement, there was a $33 million that was transferred to the general fund that was utilized for general fund operations. That is my knowledge, and that is what I know.
And Mr. President, what I'm asking the finance commissioner is monies that are put into the general fund, they are spent and appropriated by the legislature. So I'm trying to understand, did the agreement state that he had the right to spend those monies? And I also want clarity, is this potentially some of the same monies we were told that was open that this legislature has already split up? I just need clarity on that.
Please provide the clarification. Obviously, in your testimony, you spoke about the $33.6 million that was utilized. However, that the $97.8 million that was deposited into the interest-bearing account is what, in fact, the legislature has subsequently divvied up, based on bills that was put in place and act that's currently in effect.
So that $97 million is still in the interest-bearing account, collecting interest.
So the question is whether or not you're conflating or you're talking about the $33.6 million
as part of
the $97 million.
Absolutely not. No.
Well, that's why the clarity is being asked, and you should clarify.
No, there's the $97 million is there. The $33 million obviously is not there.
So they're separate monies.
Correct.
Mr. Chair, through the chair, please request to the chair a copy of the outline for the operating the negotiated agreement so we could verify exactly what all these monies were supposed to be split up for? Because I have a strong feeling there's some overlap happening here. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator. So noted. Senator.
Good afternoon to my colleagues. Good afternoon to the people of the territory. Good afternoon to the testifiers. My question is for IRB Director. This is a question that I just need some clarity on. Does IRB have authorization, or I don't know how it works. I just need you to explain it to me. If somebody has paid taxes and they're owed a tax return of say $50,000, can IRB make the decision to say, well, okay, we're going to give you back $10,000 and credit you $40,000? Is there a leeway for doing something like that? Because I'm trying to understand that, because I've had a concern where this was discussed with me, and since you're here, I just need some clarity on it.
Good day, Senator. Jolie, IRB. Can you say quickly that scenario again with the numbers side you were mentioning?
Someone paid taxes.
Okay.
They're owed a tax return of $50,000. IRB has informed them that they're going to return them $10,000 and they're going to credit them $40,000. Do you guys, how does that work? Or is that something you can do?
No, we can't. I mean, you're effectively saying we're what, splitting up?
Okay.
Yeah, we're not able to.
That is what I told the two individuals that shared that with me. And I thought it was kind of strange when one person said it to me, but when a second person said it to me and they didn't even know each other, I was a little bit confused, because these are two different taxpayers that was told they are only going to get part of their refund, and even they didn't understand what was happening. So
Yeah.
I'll discuss that with you outside, but I just needed to get some information on that.
Can I interject? The only scenario that may happen is if they owe. So maybe it got reduced by a bill from the past, so they get
It's
less
not
of a refund?
No,
Okay.
they don't.
Okay.
Ms. Reimer, OMB Director, how are you?
Good morning. I'm good. Afternoon, sorry.
Afternoon. My question to you has to do with when you were speaking about grants and stuff with some of these monies. I have some organizations that I spoke to that said that they were granted funds and were told that they had to spend it by time certain, like some of the ARPA funds and whatever. They were told that, listen, you have until 2025 of June to spend off these funds. But apparently they were then contacted as they've been spending the monies and already gone into contracts and about to expend. They were told that OMB is reappropriating the monies because they didn't spend it. And now some of these organizations are in a quagmire because they've already got contracts to spend some of these monies. Now, this is one-sided conversation, so you're here. So could you please explain to me, has this actually been happening when people have been given grants and a deadline to spend it, but then you guys are pulling back the money stating that they're not spending it by time certain?
So, Senator, when it comes to the ARPA funds, all funds have to be obligated by December 31st, 2024, which means we reached out to every entity that received grants and said, can you please provide contracts, etc., that would provide us the obligation to be able to spend those funds. If they could not provide those funds, we had to re-obligate those funds, because otherwise you would lose the opportunity to be able to spend the ARPA funding. So by December 31st, 2024, the spending goes out to 2026, but you had to obligate, which means you have to show proof of the obligation, which means you had a contract in place, you had, here's the documentation, you're going to spend the funds XYZ going forward. If you didn't have that, we couldn't provide obligations.
So I just want to hear from you. You're saying that there's no individuals that were given grants that monies were reappropriated. The only time that was done is because they were not able to provide you with information and contracts to say that they had already or they were going to expend the funds. That's
Correct.
what you're saying.
That's correct.
Thank you. That's all I need to know. My next question, this has been something I need to find out because I'm going to be honest, I don't trust this administration. I'm not even going to go around the bush anymore because I'm having too many conversations on this Senate floor that gives me great concern. And one of the things I wanted to know, did we ever spend any monies and send to any other entities that were affected during the hurricanes without legislative approval? Did we ever do that? Because that's something I never got a direct answer for, and this is from Mr. McCurdy. Did we ever expend any funds of taxpayers' dollars and send outside of the territory to other countries that might have had issues during hurricanes, etc.?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Not to your knowledge.
No, I wasn't
Okay.
here for a period of time. I was not working with the government, so I don't know.
No, this is when, not from 2017. I'm talking about when you were the commissioner.
Since I've been commissioner, no.
No money's left the territory. That's all I need to know. Thank you. The next question I want to ask you, do you have a law degree, Mr. McCurdy?
I do not.
Okay. Have you been elected as a senator?
No.
Okay. So I want to get back to this Epstein thing. So you're telling me that as the Commissioner of Finance, you on your own picked up the settlement agreement document, read it, and decided on your own, or if you got directive within the administration, to spend $33 million of it. Is that what you're putting on the record, that you did this on your own?
No, I'm not putting that on the record.
Well, could you explain to me under what
1 minute.
authority, outside of you stating that you read the settlement agreement, that gave you the authority to spend $33 million?
Senator, what I can do, because that was in 2023, what I can do is review whatever I had at the time to make that decision. I cannot tell you right now what happened.
Let me say something to you. You didn't have a law in hand
30 seconds.
that gave you that authority. So you said to us earlier that you read the settlement agreement, and in that agreement, it said you were to spend monies for operating expenses. So I am asking you, when you read those documentations that were not law, that is what you're saying authorized you to spend those funds?
I did not say that the settlement agreement said that there was money there for operations. I said that the $33 million was spent on operations. That is what I said.
It was deposited into the general fund. So could I
All
ask
monies are
time?
deposited into the general fund, Senator.
Exactly. So every time monies are deposited into the general fund, do you on your own just up and spend $33 million
Time.
without legislative approval?
There is a mechanism that allows me to spend money. That is authorization either from this body or from this body, and then by the director of OMB.
Okay. So you're saying that, well, we know the body didn't authorize you to do it. So are you saying that the director of OMB told you to spend this $33 million?
Senator, what I'm saying is $33 million was spent for operations
We
of the
already
general
know
fund.
that, sir. We
That's all
already
I'm
know that.
saying.
You
I'm
don't
not
need
saying
to-
anything else.
Oh, so you don't want to put on the record where you got your directive to spend money you didn't have authority to spend. But let me ask one more question, Mr. Chair. Could I wrap up, please?
You may wrap up, Senator.
This is my this is a copy of the the breakdown of the Epstein funds, which we received. Were you aware, Mr. McCurdy, according to the law, which was passed on the 27th of September, and then overridden the line item videos the governor did on, I think it was the 16th of October. It says no later than 30 days after the enactment of this act, the Commissioner of Finance shall submit to the legislature of the Virgin Islands a report detailing the use of all available and appropriated funds to date. Therefore, the Commissioner of Finance shall submit annual reports to the legislature on the expenditures of funds appropriated from the Southern Trust Company Settlement Fund. Have you submitted that report to us as yet?
Sandra, I can check and verify. I'm not sure. I don't want to say I did and I didn't. I can't recall.
I know because I've never seen it.
Okay, I can check on that for you.
I've never seen it. No later than 30 days after the enactment of this act, the Commissioner of Finance shall submit to the legislature detailing the use of all available funds. Commissioner shall submit annual reports, and this one has to do with the appropriation of the Survivors and Mental Health Trust Fund. Did you send us that report?
Again, I can look into that.
I never got one.
Okay, I'll look into it to make sure.
This document, because what I find ironic here today, that the legislature passed a law outlining every dime of these funds. The legislature passed a law that gave you a directive to report to us. You're sitting here saying that you don't know how, you don't send something, you don't know, you have to go check. But then in the same hand, you on your own up and spend $33 million of this money for vendors that we don't know nothing about. And I want to just say this. I distinctly remember the other day, me and one of my colleagues, we had a long debate over the $100 million line of credit for matching funds. And do you know how that was resolved? Because I put in to stop it because the governor wanted to utilize half of the $100 million for operating expenses. And I did not think that was in our best interest without knowing how to put the monies back. After debating back and forth with my colleague, the solution we came up with was to add another $50 million to the line of credit. And some of that
Senator,
money
you
was
need
to be...
wrap up if you have a next question.
Let me just finish up 1 second. To pay for vendors. My last question to you is, out of that $50 million...
Senator, you need to wrap up or ask a question.
Well, I am. Out of the $50 million that the legislature appropriated, what percentage of that has been used to pay vendors thus far? Thank you.
$40 million. Well, sorry, $40 million has been used, 11 has been repaid.
For vendors?
That's correct.
Okay. It wasn't only for vendors, it was operating expenses, all sorts of stuff. So out of the 50, 40 went to vendors. That's all I need to clarify. Because it was to be used for things.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Senator. Before we go on to